Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite YouTube podcast, Garbage Time Takes. My name is Derek. As always, with me are Dennis.
That's right. Here and present accounted for.
Love to see you, and the ever consistent Bobby Epler.
Back as always.
And before we get started, talking about all of the big sporting events going on, cough cough, the Masters, cough cough, recapping the national championship game in college basketball. A recent video went up on our channel where I broke down our fantasy baseball league rosters. And one individual pointed out to me that I forgot their team, none other than Shane Rose. So, Shane, I told you on Wednesday that I would get you your review tonight. So, here it is. I hope you're paying attention. Tyler Stevenson, a catcher I do respect. CJ Crone, a first baseman, I do respect. And then Wander Franco, a shortstop, I do respect. Uh, Outside of that, your team is garbage. Alec
Oh, there,
Baum.
there. Cue the absolute disarray and madness that Shane Rose is doing right now, as you
Correct.
didn't mention Juan Soto or Bryce Harper.
Correct. Well, I was going to get to Juan Soto. Juan Soto's Juan Soto, but he's batting 190 to
Okay,
start
okay.
the year, struggling a little bit to
I
start the
was hoping
year.
you would say disrespect just to stir the
No,
pot.
no disrespect to Juan Soto, but all I know is Bryce Harper is not going to save this sorry lineup. I
Oh
mean,
no. Oh no.
Alec Baum is just not a premier third baseman. It's just not going to get it done. Ketel Marte, please. Nick Castellanos,
Please. Please.
borderline washed.
I'm going beyond borderline.
Jake Fraley is hitting 385 to start the year. But regression to the mean is inevitable, in my personal
Wait, Jake,
opinion.
no, that is the mean, baby. That is the mean for Jake.
Yeah, easy there with your Reds bias. CJ Abrams, Washington National shortstop, who I'm pretty sure made the first error of the season in quite hilarious fashion. Currently batting 118 with 0 home runs, RBI, or stolen bases. Certified bum. Jose Abreu, he's definitely borderline washed. He's batting 345 to start the year, but the power is gone. Gunnar Henderson, nobody cares. Hunter Renfroe, nobody cares. Adam Frazier, another dink dinker, but outside of that, doesn't really provide you with much. And then in the rotation, Jacob DeGrom is Jacob DeGrom, unless he's hurt, which he always is half the season. So hard to count on him. Yu Darvish, borderline washed, in my personal opinion. Mike Clevenger, often injured, bounced around a lot of teams recently, could be washed. Nick Lodolo,
Washed.
I won't say anything about Nick Lodolo. He's a Cincinnati Red. But if you
You'll be
notice,
washed
there's
in
a
your
lot of
second year.
I mean,
Or it's just
Nick
that bad.
Lodolo, Nick Lodolo had 9 strikeouts his first time out. He pumps it in there, tends to give up a lot of hard contact. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out for Shane's ERA and home runs given up. Lance Lynn,
Washed.
it's been rough to start the year for good old Lance. Jordan
Eight earned
Romano,
runs tonight with 3 home runs given up and four and
yeah,
a third. Ouch for Lance Lynn.
yeah, it was rough. Jordan Romano, very good closer, top end closer for the Blue Jays, so I'll give him credit there. But Dylan Floro, ain't nobody going to care about Dylan Floro and the Miami Marlins. So overall, Shane was drafting in the fourth to last position in our draft. So certainly not an easy position to draft out of. But for the results of his draft as it stands, I'm going to give him C, maybe a C plus, probably a bottom half of the team or bottom half team of the league. Unfortunately for Shane, so there's your recap, buddy. Hope you enjoyed it. Dennis, the Masters are underway. I hope everyone who's watching this pod has had a chance to check out Dennis's Masters. Oh, the spiked Arnold Palmer. Hope everyone has
Fine,
had a chance
baby.
to check out Dennis's article. If you have not, please feel free to take a look at that. Dennis put a lot of effort into it, so it's worth a read for sure. Dennis,
Yes, sir.
your thoughts after round one of the Masters? It's Thursday night. John Rahm had one heck of a day. The leaderboard, it was a good day for the guys at the top. We got -7s all over the place. Your thoughts on the opening round?
No, it was an awesome day. It was a glorious day for the world of golf. The Masters teeing off this morning, and there are some weather concerns this weekend, which could impact play tomorrow and Saturday even. But we got a full round in today. Everybody's done with round one, and it was awesome to watch. I mean, I know Bobby has some things he wants to get into too, but in general, I was really impressed with some guys. Some guys I wasn't expecting, some guys I was expecting. You mentioned John Rahm. He started out with a double on the first with a four putt, and I
One
was I
of
was
us,
watching that. I was
one
like,
of us.
yeah, it was a little concerning to watch. And you're like, oh no, it's not gonna be his week. And then he goes 9 under the rest of the way, and pretty much just shoots lights out and looks like typical John Rahm. Jason Day, a guy I did expect towards the top of the leaderboard, 5 under, playing really really good golf. Cam Young has been really hot lately. My favorite and 2022 champion Scotty Scheffler is tied for sixth. He shot 4 under day, very solid day for Scotty. Spieth is sitting at 3 under and 13th. So a lot of big names towards the top, like you said. Tied at the very top are John Rahm, previously mentioned, Victor Hovland, who played basically mistake-free golf today. I watched most of his round, and it was just he just wasn't hitting bad shots. And then a guy I did not get a chance to watch too much of that Bobby will love to talk about. That would be Mr. Brooks Koepka. That's where we sit after day one.
Brooksy, baby. I tell you what, Bob, and then I'll let you shoot.
And I have
Brooks
my thoughts on
Koepka.
Tiger, but we'll save that for a different segment here.
Brooks Koepka is the one guy on the Live Tour that I still respect. I've been a Brooks fan for quite some time. I continue to be a Brooks fan. I have no ill will towards Brooks. So if Brooks were to win the Masters, I wouldn't really be that disappointed, to be honest.
I don't think many people would, Derek. I don't think many people would.
I mean, Bob, empty the clip. Empty the clip.
I think it really just in order to empty the clip, you got to start at the beginning. And this goes back to, if you did have a chance to take out Dennis's article, you would have been reminded of the agreement that Dennis willingly threw himself into, in his supreme confidence in the PGA Tour, being the most diehard fan ever spawned to this earth for the PGA Tour, said that if a live golfer were to win the Masters, even and I believe the guy that Dennis said he wouldn't be surprised if did it was Cam Smith, if I remember correctly. That was the man that Dennis was probably the most afraid of. We didn't hear any. We heard outside of that. We heard I believe the word bums were used. I believe Dennis emptied the clip in that regard, in the reverse direction. Well, come to find out, day one's over. It's obviously a long weekend.
We'll find out one day.
One day's over, and I was just going to do that. Long weekend to go, but it's a long weekend to go for all the PGA golfers as well. And come to find out, good old Brooks Koepka, a guy who I was a large fan of before, he changed tours and secured the bag, is back like a bad penny for Dennis, and putting on quite a show today, playing an extremely good round of golf. I was getting updates from friends throughout the day who were watching, and they made many, many comments about Brooks's play, how he's placing the ball really, really well, just putting darts out there throughout the day. And, I just thought that, since I have the opportunity to share my screen, I'd throw up the home page of the Live Golf website at this given moment in time, just so Dennis can get a good look at it. Oh no, Dennis. Can you see the screen?
We can't see the screen.
I'm sure Greg wrote it himself. Greg wrote it himself.
Well, I'm not sure if it transferred over on my screen share or not, but if you couldn't see it at home,
it did.
No, I mean for the recording software because it was kind of covering that up, so I
Oh,
couldn't see
gotcha.
if it transferred over correctly. But if you couldn't see it at home, what it shared was a big article with a picture of Brooks Koepka on the front page of the website saying that he's sharing the lead today at the Masters. Dennis, I think it needed a barf bucket. I know you couldn't see his camera during that point, so I started filling in on what he was doing. But yeah, Cam Smith, 2 under, a pretty respectable day. A lot of live golfers right around the 1 to
Yeah,
2.
and may I note the second best round from a live golfer today, 5 back of Brooks Koepka.
Well,
5.
I many more PGA golfers farther back than that, and
And many more in between those two.
well, correct. But there's
About
not as many live golfers playing, Dennis. I mean, we only got a small sample size here. I took your bet. Your bet was a good one to make based on the numbers.
No, it wasn't a good one to make based on the numbers. It was a good one to make based on the known skill sets of the golfers in each group. Is what it was a good. That's why it was a good bet.
We have a lot of 1-unders. We have a lot of guys that shot under par today for the live golf squad, which know
Dennis,
what?
is the course in trouble, Dennis? Is the course in trouble? Is it playing too easy for the players? I mean, we're big, fans of the course on this podcast. So is the course losing the battle to the players
Screw them.
currently?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think that you often will see this happen early in tournaments, and it will get tougher. You can guarantee that because the Masters Committee, Augusta National does not want to see this golf tournament won at 18 under. They want to see it won at 10 under, and we're already got these scores rolling in. 65s posted today for 7 unders. They're not a fan of that, but the course does get tougher as the week goes on. I will say that there's this imminent threat now for weather, which tends to make things a little easier as the greens slow down.
Soft
Um,
greens, Dennis. Soft greens.
the softness increases with the saturation of the course, and so they're going to have to battle that a little bit too. But I would look for these pin placements to get tougher. A lot was made out of, and I didn't catch the final statistic on it, but a lot was made out of the lengthening of the par 5 13 by 35 yards coming into this year's Masters. They moved the tee boxes back, and a lot of people were criticizing them for that, basically saying that it made the hole a lot harder unnecessarily and favored distance. But the scoring average, at least through the first half of the day, I heard was actually lower than it has been in years past. So I think it's part these guys are just really good, and part they've always been really good, and the course played a little easy today. I think that's a good point.
I was, just to recap a few names I'm always interested in, to wrap things up here. Phil, I believe at 1 under today. If I'm not mistaken.
Did not catch much of Phil's round, but he hit a really good shot from the pine straw, I did see, and obviously posted the 1 under. So, better than I would have expected out of Phil, considering he hasn't really been competing even in the live events that I've seen.
Bryson DeChambeau, a live golfer, but you know what they call me? Unbiased Bob. Not unhappy to see that he's at 2 over today. Thank you, Bryson.
Respect the TAM.
Thank
Bryson.
The TAM.
See ya.
Thank you, Bryson, for stinking it up. Another man stinking it up at tied for 54th, and I need an 18 under from him tomorrow. You know him, Dennis. Big Tiger Woods.
Big cat, Bobby. The big cat. He had a rough day today. I'll say that. I watched almost all of the big cat's round. He was okay. Really tee to green. He did not have the putter today, which is ironic considering that the biggest part of his game has been that's been suffering is from walking and the more physical side of things. You would think that putting of all things would be a little easier for him, but he struggled with the flat stick today. Just did not hit a lot of solid putts, put himself in a lot of second putts from 5-6 feet out that then didn't drop, and it was tough to watch at times. The short game was not there. He hit a couple of bad pitch shots, so hopefully he can gather himself and come back tomorrow. The problem, which I do want to mention in general, is that he will be in the afternoon wave tomorrow. And if you take a look at the weather forecast, the guys that might be in the most trouble in terms of rain and wind and things coming in will be afternoon. The morning guys have a clear advantage of getting this thing in before some of the weather rolls in. And Tiger, I don't believe tees off until maybe like 1:30. So it could be a long, long, long day for Tiger Woods tomorrow, unfortunately.
And I hate to hear that, Dennis, but I'm so glad you brought that up because I just wanted to mention another thing. Going into tomorrow with that that weather that you mentioned on the way. Some tee times.
Wait, can I guess? Is it Brooks going off in the morning?
Some tee times of leading people tomorrow. Victor Hovland teeing off 1:24 p.m. John Rahm 1:48 p.m.
Yeah.
Cam Young 1:48 p.m. Brooks Koepka 8:48 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. The afternoon wave yesterday. So I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but for anyone who doesn't or doesn't follow golf routinely, there's obviously 4 rounds. They start on Thursday, and the cut is made after the round on Friday after the second round. But for the first 2 rounds, they'll have a morning wave and an afternoon wave, and then it switches on day two. So if you were in the morning, you're in the afternoon on day two, and if you were in the afternoon, you're on the morning on day two. And so all the morning guys today, as Bobby just mentioned, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Cam Young, will be starting in the afternoon tomorrow, as he just listed. But I will say, sure, Brooks Koepka goes out early. Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Tony Finau, all these names that are also right there, 3-4 under, also going
representing the
out in the morning
PGA, Dennis. Representing the PGA.
Representing the PGA. Xander Schauffele, I believe, was in the afternoon wave today, which means he'll go out tomorrow.
He's going out. He's going out at one.
Scotty
He's going
was.
out at 1:24 tomorrow, Xander.
Xander is okay, so I was off with that. I know Finau, Spieth, and Scheffler are all going out in the morning.
My big
and
I'll put my 2 cents for PGA golfer real quick, Dennis. I know you like this.
Go for it.
Somebody going out in the morning tomorrow that I'm expecting to make a big run tomorrow, Mr. Colin Morikawa. With a 3 under today. I always like watching Colin.
The controversy today?
I always like watching Colin.
Did you see the controversy today?
I didn't see the controversy, but they'll give you a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, no, this was wild. So I only saw the video and immediately made my judgment without knowing the full story as a
Oh no, Dennis.
to be frank
Not
with you. And then I
jumping to
read the rest of the
conclusions.
story and understood.
I mean,
I did jump to a
that's
conclusion.
just part of being on the internet, baby.
Yeah, I know. All this lack of context. Essentially, what had happened was there's video circulating. Golf Twitter went nuts. It was essentially Morikawa had his ball marked. He shifted his ball forward and then remarked it to that spot and picked up his ball. And so it very much appeared as though he had moved his ball forward on the green by maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches tops. What had really happened was his ball had moved. I don't know if something hit it or it had moved after it had come to a stop, and he had talked to his playing partners about it, and essentially under the rules he was then able to put it back in its original location. So that's all he was doing, was putting it back in approximately the closest location. But if you didn't have that context or didn't know he talked to anybody about it, it would have appeared as though he just moved his ball and tried to kind of sneak one past all the cameras there, which would have been a really dumb move.
Dennis, did you see the other controversy today?
Yeah, with Brooks.
Correct. For those of you who did not see that controversy,
you want to go ahead? Go for it.
Brooks's caddy was caught on camera mouthing, potentially, allegedly, the word 5 in the direction of who was Brooks playing with this morning?
Oh crap! I read the article. I can't remember who it was. Gary Woodland.
Woodland. It was Gary Woodland. That was who I want to say in my head, but I wasn't sure. So he allegedly mouthed the word 5 in the direction of Gary Woodland's caddy. Now, for those of you dimple heads out there like us who understand golf rules, there is to be no discussion of advice and clubs hit and things like that on the course between the players and their caddies, lest you suffer a 2-stroke penalty. And so there's some controversy that Brooks's caddy mouthed 5, as in the 5-iron of the club Brooks hit, towards Gary Woodland's caddy. And people were upset, but the Masters Committee and the PGA decided that no infraction had occurred, and after speaking to all the parties involved, could be a boys' club sort of thing where, there were some quotes saying that if, everyone was mic'd up, there would be lots of infractions for those types of rules being broken. Caddies secretly sharing tips and stuff on the course. So, and in my personal opinion, it's a big nothing burger of an issue. And let's go Brooks Koepka. Dennis, your thoughts?
Dennis, get the T-shirt ready.
Yeah, I'm not reading too much into it. I don't want to win this bet and have someone win because Brooks Koepka got a 2-stroke penalty for his caddy mouthing the word five. That's dumb. I
Thank you, Dennis.
understand why the
Thank you.
rules in place. I understand why the rules in place, and then I think that there's a possible infraction. But as you pointed out, there's probably infractions such as those on every single round. And if you just happen to have a microphone in the right spot at the right time, you might catch it, and otherwise you probably don't. So I'm not going to penalize him. I don't feel like he should be penalized for that. It
Thank you,
probably
Dennis.
was a little bit of boys' school kind of, you don't say anything, we don't say anything kind of thing. I'm not reading too much into it. Go play golf. Like, it,
The,
that's
the
a
only other thing,
minor thing.
the only other thing I wanted to ask you, Dennis, about the Masters, and then we can move on.
Yes, sir.
How much work did you get done today? Because it is a weekday, it is a Thursday, and you said you watched nearly all of Tiger's round. And Tiger, I believe, teed off in the morning, which would lead me
19
to
a.m. Yeah.
believe, which would lead me to believe that you did not accomplish hardly anything at your workplace today from the hours of approximately, at the minimum, 10 to 1:30.
I mean, I did accomplish more than you might think because I accomplished more than I thought I would. But I will say that so here's how I played it essentially is because I knew that I had to have, I had to have the Masters streaming on. I had to have Masters.com rolling, which is great because they give you coverage the entire day. You don't have to wait for the broadcast to come on at 3 p.m. You can watch the featured groups and um, specific holes that they have. It's a brilliant setup for coverage. And I started I started watching when Tiger teed off. I watched I think a couple holes, and then what I would do is because there's a lot of downtime in golf, obviously, especially when they're only watching two groups at a time. I would um, mute the sound, turn down minimize the browser and do 15, 20 minutes, and then maybe watch another hole. And then I would do the same thing and in little spurts. So it was constantly running, but there was some golf breaks, I'll say, to make sure I got the most important stuff.
Numerous golf breaks. Numerous. Bob, any closing thoughts on the Masters? I thought you had your hand raised to say something a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I did have my hand raised. I was going to make a comment on Dennis's work schedule, which is I think what I was going to add is that it's shoddy at best, and so this was just another to put a golf reference par for the course for Dennis's
Nicely done, nicely done.
for Dennis's Masters work. So I always love the Masters. I'm loving that we get to see this kind of new rivalry that's formed play a whole nother add a whole nother aspect to the game.
T-shirts on the line.
Whole other aspect to the game in the pod, but also outside of the pod. And I think it I think it adds more intrigue to it. Honestly, I know, I'm more interested in it than maybe I normally would have because of that. So maybe that it's that way for others. I don't know.
I've got a question for you guys actually before we move because I was thinking about this and I'm more than happy. I doubled down on my bet. I feel confident in my bet. I'm perfectly fine and content with how it's gone down. But what am I getting out of this, man? Like when Brooks doesn't win, when Brooks doesn't win, I like. What do you guys have to do? Nothing. Like it's a lose or I either lose or it's the same as it was before. Like I have
I
nothing to win.
mean, Dennis, if I remember correctly, you're the one that sort of stuck your neck out there to begin with. And you sent us, I
Only after
believe,
being absolutely raked over the coals,
you
essentially by
also
you guys.
you also sent us a screenshot of the betting odds for live golfers versus the field. And it was
Incredible.
it was what, minus 800 for the field
Yeah, it was
compared
minus
to
850 and plus 500 for live.
correct.
I honestly thought that was like pretty high odds for like. I thought that Liv would be like plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Honestly.
no, because you got Brooks and Cam and DJ.
Oh, bums.
DJ's
No,
That's what
washed.
I heard.
DJ's
Bums.
washed.
Bums.
I'm not saying they actually have a chance. I'm just saying from Vegas's perspective, there's probably some,
No.
and there's
Just
some
Vegas.
people that, as you mentioned, Bobby, as you mentioned, some of your friends today are some live supporters out there, and those people will come out and support the live golfers and bet on them, and so that all gets baked into the odds.
Listen, all I'm saying, Dennis, is the reason you're not getting any kickback here is because you essentially have minus 850 odds to win this. So that would be
Maybe.
why
So like
there's no stake in it
it
for
shouldn't be an
us.
equal bet, but like it shouldn't be
I'm
equal to what I would have to do. I agree with that, but there's got to be like I don't know. I got to have something.
I mean I'm just a golf fan, Dennis. I have no allegiance to live. I have no allegiance to the PGA.
Yeah,
I'm as fence sitter
same
as it
here.
gets. I'm
Same
as
here.
fence sitter as it gets.
Same here.
Fine, I'll give you guys this because I'm a nice guy. Because I'm a nice guy, I'll give you guys
Thank you,
this.
Dennis.
I will take all of
Namaste,
the money that I
Dennis.
won from FanDuel for not betting any live golfers this weekend and intentionally strategizing, excuse me, around the live golfers. And when they don't win, I will recoup all of that betting money, and I'll just take that as my compensation.
There's your compensation right there. Let's move on into brief national championship recap, mostly because it was a good game. It wasn't necessarily one of the greatest national championship games of recent memory, but it was a good game. But unfortunately, San Diego State went 11 minutes, 12 minutes without scoring a field goal late in the first half. Got down 10-15 and just never was really able to make it competitive until about 5 minutes left in the second half. They got it down to within 5 points, but then Jordan Hawkins hit an absolute dagger of a three right before the under 4 media timeout. I was sitting there thinking we were going to have a game and that if San Diego State could survive to the under 4, only down 5, they had a good chance of keeping it tight throughout. But Jordan Hawkins hits that three, and UConn never looked back. UConn finishes the season in non-conference play 17-0, winning every single non-conference game by double digits. Certainly one of the better teams to win a championship in recent memory. Probably not the best team to win a championship, but their dominance in the non-conference is certainly not to be underestimated and undervalued. It was pretty impressive. They dumpstered Alabama early in the year, played a number of other different tough non-conference opponents. I mean, they absolutely, took Gonzaga to the woodshed. I mean, just impressive of a run as it gets for Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies, winning their 5th national championship in 4 decades. Only UNC has also won in each decade the past 4 decades. And I think it's high time that UConn has established themselves as a blue blood of college basketball, much to Dennis's chagrin, because Villanova and UConn are sworn enemies. Dennis, your thoughts on the national championship?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong, which I don't. I mean, go ahead, Derek.
You were right on
Kramer,
Marquette,
please.
though, Dennis. You were right on Marquette.
I was right on Marquette, but I believe, and maybe I didn't fade UConn that much, but I'm pretty sure I faded them on this podcast a few weeks ago, right when the tournament was getting started. Maybe I think it was a little harsher on Marquette, but still faded UConn just because I don't like Dan Hurley, and not only are they Villanova bitter rivals, but they are also old UC bitter rivals. Bitter rivals. Man, I cannot talk tonight.
Who's the real
So
UC,
not a lot of good
Dennis?
history. What's that?
Who is the real UC? University of Connecticut or University of Cincinnati? Who's the real UC?
I mean, there's one only UC, and everybody knows who UC is. I'm pretty sure they go by UConn as well. I don't
I
think
mean, they
anyone's really called
do.
them UC.
They do go by UConn, but you could call them UC.
Yeah, but nobody's going to do
Just
that
food
because
for
they're not
thought.
the
Just
real
food for
ones.
thought.
Well, here's the thing. If they did, they would, everyone would be like, why are you talking about Cincinnati? So, like, because they're the real ones. That's insane.
Anyway,
That's on
but yeah, I do
Bobby's
remember.
face.
I do remember.
Bobby's face.
I do remember in our
Nobody's
bracket
saying that, Dennis.
preview. I do
I
remember in
am.
our bracket preview, we made a point to mention that UConn was the last undefeated team in the regular season. And I don't know if any of us made an explicit point to say that UConn was, a frisky team coming out of that region. But certainly, you know, the Big East was a gauntlet this year, and once they got to play in the non-conference, they just absolutely toasted everyone.
Yeah, they looked really good. I mean, you touched on it already. I don't think I have too much more to add in terms of the national championship, but they just got on a roll at the right time. And we saw early in the season what this team can do when they're on a roll. Like you said, they're the last undefeated team, and they tailed off there in the middle of the year a little bit with Big East play. Had some unfortunate losses that I'm sure they would have preferred to play better in, and they got back on track. I think they had some injuries in that time too, and then they got healthy and they just played well. And that's what it's about this time of year. And hats off to them. I was certainly disappointed, but you can't hate
The
too
Big
much
East
when the
is
team just
back,
kind of
Dennis.
dominates.
The Big East is back. You can have that. The Big
Yeah,
East is
yeah. I mean,
back.
absolutely. You gotta love the respect that brings to the Big East Conference and to my soon-to-be alma mater, Villanova University. So yeah, I'm happy about it.
I mean, you've got now Rick Pitino at St. John's. You've got, Coach Cooley moving from
He's
Providence to
gonna take the.
Georgetown. You've
And I
got
was gonna say, did he take the Georgetown job?
He did take the Georgetown job. He's moved on. Providence fans very upset. Marquette,
Why would he
obviously,
do that?
because it's Georgetown, Dennis. Georgetown.
Yeah, and they're
Uh,
horrible.
well, they're prestigious.
Like Villanova.
As correct.
Oh, come on.
Villanova will be back. I'm sure.
Oh, Neptune, baby.
Surely, Coach Neptune won't tear down everything that Jay Wright built, just as Juan Howard has done to John Beeline's Michigan program.
Hey, we
You
can
got
talk about that
Marquette.
if you want.
We're gonna save it for winners and losers of the week.
Oh,
Surely Shaka Smart and Marquette will continue to be a problem. I mean, the Big East is going to be one of, if not the best coached conferences in college basketball next year. I mean, you've still got Seton Hall is going to be competitive here pretty soon. Providence, they're still going to be competitive. I mean, Dennis, it's no longer a walk in the park for Villanova in the Big East.
No, at least there's added some intrigue with that because it used to be too easy, and it's nice to see some good teams come back to the East. East is a beast, and it should be good stuff. By the way, Derek, a little bit off topic, but it is sort of on topic. I'm assuming you didn't quite get the chance to read the article, the Masters article, that is. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Been a
Well,
very busy
I know
week.
it's already started. Bobby, you may know what I'm talking about because I believe you at least skimmed through it. When you get the chance, at least glance at the beginning of the Jason Day section.
Okay, we'll do.
That's
Will
all I'll
do.
say. That's all I'll say. For anybody
All
out
right.
there may be some references you're interested in.
Bob, any thoughts on national championship and the champion UConn Huskies?
we talked about it. Last week. In the absence of Dennis, I'm pretty sure.
That was correct.
Like I said, I think as we both said, UConn was the favorite to get it done at that point, and they did nothing but prove us right. Not quite the intrigue in the end of this tournament run for the NCAA was probably hoping for from the men's section. But you know what? Nonetheless, can't take anything away from UConn. They had a great season, and I know I've got got a friend or two at CMed that are very, very happy that UConn finished the job. So shout out to them.
I mean, you mentioned the intrigue in the men's side was a little bit lacking, but the women's side, I don't know if you guys paid too much attention to the women's national championship game. I watched it. Um, a lot of talk about the officiating being relatively pathetic, and it was. It was pretty terrible officiating for a national championship game. Wouldn't surprise me if all three of those refs were from the Pac-12, the conference with the worst officials in America. Um, I don't know. Did you guys watch it much?
No,
I followed some of the tournament. I watched both the final four games actually, I think, or at least good portions of them, but I did not catch the Natty. I heard about some of the the controversy and whatever, and
Yeah,
um,
yeah. It was
a little bit with
mostly
the Caitlin Clark thing, right?
yeah. People just like to get mad over things. I'm sure most of you who are watching this have seen it as well, but I'll give a little brief recap. I don't want to take too much time on it. Caitlin Clark against Louisville, or no, yeah, against Louisville, hit the John Cena, you can't see me. And then against South Carolina was, did a little bit of gamesmanship. The Iowa defensive plan was to leave South Carolina open for threes. And in one such instance, Caitlin Clark did a little hand wave and said, I dare you to shoot it to one of the South Carolina 3-point shooters. LSU, for some reason, took offense to all of those things. And I guess it worked since they won. But they took offense to the way Iowa defended South Carolina, even though Iowa wasn't going to defend LSU the same way. And at the very end of the game, Angel Reese, very talented player, hit Caitlin Clark with the Jonas Cena You Can't See Me. Also hit her with the Ring Me celebration. Um, and there was a lot of talk about how it was classless and unsportsmanlike, and that if Caitlin Clark, and then there was the other side that was, well, if Caitlin Clark can dish it, she can take it, which is true to an
She
extent,
did, I'm
except
pretty sure.
she did take it, and it's true to an extent, except for the fact that she didn't hit LSU with the "You Can't See Me," so it loses a little bit of traction there. But at the end of the day, I have no problem with it. It was, in my opinion, just a little bit cringe because Angel Reese kind of followed her around the court for 15 seconds, trying to be like, "Hey, notice me, please." And Caitlin Clark just wasn't really having any of it. So it was kind of cringe, but I didn't mind the actual taunting itself. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on it, but LSU shot the lights out in the first half, and then all of the foul trouble with Iowa in the second half sort of doomed them in the fourth quarter. And in the first half, really put them in a hole. And, that team comes and goes with Caitlin Clark, and she can't score 100 points on her own.
No, no, she certainly can't, but gosh dang. I mean, she is so impressive. I mean, there's a lot of impressive players in women's college basketball. We got to see some from LSU. But she's so good. It's insane. What was it like? She dropped the first, was it the first triple double or like the record
40
number of
point
triple
triple
doubles in the
double, I
tournament?
think. I think it was the first 40-point triple double in the tournament, which I think has
Mind-boggling.
never been done in the men's tournament either. I think it was the first time for either tournament to have a 40-point triple double. Pretty sure.
That's
Pretty sure
so
that's what it
crazy.
was. But yeah, super
Good
impressive from
stuff.
both teams. Bob, any thoughts of your own?
No, I think you did a nice job summarizing the controversy. Um,
You're a showman, Bob. I know that much.
what was that? I'm a showman.
Yes. You're a fan of showmanship.
I am a fan of showmanship, and every time there's a little bit of controversy or drama, I'm all over it. As I was, with watching this. Um, yeah, think it for the most part is pretty much a nothing burger. Um,
100%. Considering it absolutely died out of news feeds in less than 24 hours.
yeah, I would agree with the um, maybe a touch of cringe, but I mean, whatever. I mean, I guess all taunting is, I guess, kind of cringe from an outsider's perspective a little bit at the end of the day. Um, but no, like full credit to LSU. I mean, they dominated, and Really, really glad to see that they are getting recognition for what a great run it was.
Yeah, it was a really good women's tournament, and it's just good in general for not to get garbage time woke takes over here, but it is good for the women's game to grow and be more entertaining than it has been in the past. As impressive as UConn's stretch of dominance was, there wasn't a whole lot of parity in the women's game, which made it not super, fun or interesting to watch. But with the transfer portal and just programs investing more into their women's basketball programs, there's been a lot more parity, a lot more
There has.
exciting basketball. So credit to the women's game for growing, and Caitlin Clark certainly, she sort of took over the reins, in my opinion, from Sabrina Ionescu, who really did that at Oregon, sort of elevated the women's game, and then Caitlin Clark has taken another step further. So props to everyone involved in the women's side. The MLB, Dennis, is finally underway. You were not, unfortunately, able to be there with us last week as me and Bob talked about the MLB's season beginning. Our Cubs and Reds have split a 2-game series that had the third game postponed. A lot of postponements early in the season, but that's to be expected when you have,
This weather,
you
man. What can
know,
you do?
when you have a bunch of teams in the Midwest, Northeast in early April. Perhaps the MLB should reconsider how many home games those teams play in the beginning of the season and perhaps send them to the West Coast and to the South so that you don't have so many early season postponements. But I digress. Baseball is back. We're in full swing. Opening day, to my own admission, I got absolutely nothing done at lab last Thursday. I watched Cubs opening day start to finish, and you know, you can't complain about baseball being back.
No, absolutely not. It's a great time of year. I mean, obviously, with the Masters going on this weekend too, it's even more exciting to have both going on at the same time. If games actually get played and don't continue to get postponed, as Derek pointed out. But yeah, we're cruising along here, and it's good to have it back. I would say a few surprises early in the season, but nothing to overreact about. That's the thing about baseball is you gotta keep in mind that you play 162, and the things that are true after week one will not be true in July and August. So a lot of baseball to be played. And hopefully, I mean, I'm looking forward to a good weekend. The Reds are in Philly this weekend. Philly started 1-5, which is probably one of the slight surprises. They just haven't gotten anything going. The pitching's been rough. Aaron Nola had a bad outing.
As
To
you
my
would know.
chagrin, yeah, correct. Yeah, of course I would know. Yeah. And the offense just hasn't been there. But for them anyway, no Bryce Harper and no Reese Hoskins for the whole year for Reese, which is a big blow. Those two guys are a big part of what Philly does, and so I think that's partially attributable to the slow start. The Reds, 3-2. We took the series from Pittsburgh, which can't complain about that. Lost opening day because David Bell is a bonehead and pulled Hunter Green with 80 pitches when he was doing just fine, only to walk in 3 runs. I can't even remember the name of the reliever, but I'm pretty sure he was already sent down, deservedly so, because he was arse, and you can't walk in 3 runs on opening day in Cincinnati. You're not going to survive very long. But then, one on Saturday and Sunday, one on Monday against Derek's Cubs, and then dropped the game on Tuesday. So we sit at 3-2.
Absolute bullpen
Better than-
implosion for the Reds.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was horrible. Because Bobby Luis Sessa actually had a pretty decent outing.
Yeah, he was kind of
He was
shoving.
okay.
He was
Yeah,
actually
he
shoving.
hung in there, and then the Reds bullpen absolutely blew up. And what was it, like 12-5 or something? It ended up being. I
Something
think the
like
Cubs
that.
blew the doors open in like the 5th or 6th, and it was horrible. But yeah, that's kind of a very general, overarching recap of where we're at so far. But hey, I'll say this: as long as we don't go, knock on wood, 0-21 over the next 21 games, we will have started better than last season.
Clap it up for the Cincinnati Reds to avoid going 3-23.
3-22 was the worst record we got to
3-22.
last year.
Excuse me, 3-22. Uh, that is impressive incompetence. Almost as impressive as the Detroit Pistons having one win in their last 21 games. So credit to the Detroit Pistons have solidified themselves in the worst draft position or with the worst record in the league. They're guaranteed to finish no lower than fifth in the lottery, meaning with Detroit Pistons luck, they will probably finish fifth in the lottery and have tanked for absolutely nothing. But that's the NBA. We'll talk about that a little bit later because there's some very interesting, uh, things happening in the Western Conference standings. Before Bob talks a little about the Detroit Tigers and their incompetence, I'd like to talk about the Chicago Cubs and David Ross's incompetence. The Cubs could very easily be 4-1. Maybe they lose that first game to the Reds regardless. But game two against Milwaukee, just absolute buffoonery in the bullpen. David Ross's nickname from me is David, leave my pitcher in one batter too longer, Ross. Because he flagrantly leaves pitchers in for one batter too long, and everything always goes to ish right after that.
So the
He had
complete opposite of my problem.
Correct. He had Javier Assad pitch an inning. That's as many innings as Javier Assad should be pitching. What did David Ross do? Left him in for the next batter of inning number 2. Walk. No, single. Or walk. I'm pretty sure he walked him. At that point, you think, all right, let's yank him. David Ross said, nah, I'm good, fam. Walked another guy. First and second, no outs. Then he decides to throw in some worthless scrub who I don't even remember who it was at this point anymore. But the Cubs end up losing big, and they essentially just crapped a game down the toilet because of David Ross's bullpen mismanagement. He did it again in game 3, not necessarily with the bullpen, but the Cubs were rallying late. Patrick Wisdom had been hit by a pitch earlier in the game in the wrist. And so, with runners on first and second and no outs, David Ross said, let's have Patrick Wisdom lay down a bunt. Patrick Wisdom bunted the ball directly back to the pitcher in the air, completely wasted an at bat, and the Cubs rally died no more than 2 outs later. So, just some absolute clown behavior from David Ross to open the season. Granted, he's a relatively new manager. I'm pretty sure he's either going into his 3rd or 4th year at this point. I don't remember. But these are issues that have plagued him in recent seasons. They were issues I had definitely last season. And while our bullpen is straight cheeks, get this. Our opening day roster did not have a single left-handed reliever. How do you field an MLB baseball team and not have a single healthy left-handed reliever? Our left-handed reliever is hurt, and we just said, screw it, we don't need another one. Additionally, the Chicago Cubs currently only have 2 legitimate primary position outfielders on the roster as it stands right now. We're playing a who's who, or a who's not, I should say, of position players out in right field while we're waiting for the return of Seiya Suzuki. Patrick Wisdom, who is a third baseman by trade, has surprisingly been our best right fielder throughout the season. Miles Mastrobuoni, or as I like to call him, Master Boner, because he's worthless, has gotten way too many starts in right field and needs to be DFA'd prompt and immediately. Yeah, the Cubs' overall roster construction is quite a mess this early in the season, and thank goodness for Dansby Swanson, or they'd probably be winless. Dansby Swanson and Cincinnati Reds bullpen implosion, otherwise they'd probably be winless. So thank you to that. Thank you to Dansby. I love that man with everything that I have.
And
He's awesome.
Marcus Stroman shoved on opening day.
Marcus Stroman did shove.
There you go.
I'm a Marcus Stroman fan. Our rotation outside of that, Justin Steele is he's decent. Justin Steele is decent and can be good on a good day, but I'm not putting any stake in Drew Smiley being a successful pitcher throughout the rest of the season. Um, he sucks. He got absolutely hammered against the Reds. So
He did.
some positives. Patrick Wisdom, Ian Happ, Dansby Swanson just mashing the ball all over the field. But outside of that, Cody Bellinger still is struggling to find his swing, and the rest of the 5 through 9 hitters are pretty much a guaranteed out. So, uh, looking for better things as the season progresses, but this is a 500 team at best. Bob, the Detroit Tigers struggled to score runs early in the season. The offense, relatively non existent. The bullpen, relatively non existent. Starting pitching, either very good or absolutely hammered. And unfortunately, it's been a lot of the latter. Bob, tell the people about the Detroit Tigers to open the season.
Well, I'd love to, and I knew things were going to be off to a rough start when in the first 3 games, we averaged 1 run per game for the first 3 games, which is just not going to cut the mustard in the MLB. We then proceeded to bounce back with, a couple of respectable performances of 7 and 6 runs, and now we are back below 3 runs in our last 2 games, which have been promptly and immediately 2 losses. The batting lineup has looked anemic and quite literally pathetic. The only time that we ever get any sort of offense is when we have a surprise dong from somebody that really has little to no business hitting a dong. We are attempting a lot of steals. We are attempting a lot of aggressive maneuvers because that is just quite simply what we have to do to put runs across the plate. Starting pitching, like you've mentioned, Derek, has been decent at points and staying at other points. We've had also a big problem of yanking our starters before it gets quite too bad with a couple runners on.
Correct.
When they have a couple runners on base and they're looking like they're losing control, we go to a middle reliever that we think we have faith in, and they immediately give up a dong and allow all the inherited runners to score, and then it looks way worse than it maybe needed to on the starting pitcher. Jose Cisnero has looked like an absolute bum.
He was lights out last year, Bob. Lights out. I checked it because I saw him give up that home run today, and I was like, why is Jose Cisnero even pitching? He's a bum. And then I caught myself. I was like, wait a second. I actually think might have been one of our best relievers last year. Sure enough, he was sub 1.5 ERA last year.
Yep.
And he wasn't
Very good.
He didn't even because my thing with bullpen ERA is, well, how many inherited runners did they let score? And he only let 2 inherited runners score over the course of the entire season, I'm pretty sure. So Jose Cisneros is no bum, but unfortunately he wet the bed today.
Yeah, well, he did wet the bed today, and I believe another point in this season already, he allowed another dong of inherited runners as well. But with Jose, you got to remember, suffered that injury towards the end of last season.
That's right. Yeah.
And so he is coming in pretty cold. I mean, they had a little spring training ball, of course, but in game action, he's pretty cold, and he has not looked good, which is kind of the theme of the rest of the bullpen. When we were putting Jason Foley out there to try to get things done in middle relief, a man who was called up out of AAA last year to try to get some things done as like our 17th option in the bullpen, because the only thing that we had going for us last year was the bullpen. And now all those other guys have been shipped off to contenders for picks, and Jason Foley is remaining in these stakes. Alex Langs looks pretty decent, who's going to be our closer if we ever have the opportunity to close a game, which it's not looking good at this point.
Oh, no.
Luckily, you wouldn't believe it, but luckily we are tied for the second worst record in the league, and we're actually second to last in our own division because the only team worse than us right now is the Kansas City Royals, who has only won 1 game. So
they are stained.
So it looks like we potentially could avoid, at least from the first week. Things could change. we could avoid last place in the division this year. I will actually get the opportunity to see these two dumpster fires play each other in this June at Comerica Park. The Royals and the Tigers. First ever time in Comerica. Upcoming.
Cool.
But disaster city from the Tigers. Spencer Turnbull says throwing the no-hitter, then promptly and immediately getting hurt. Came back. Has looked like Stain. We're going to need improvement. Go ahead.
Wasn't all his... Did he pitch today?
He pitched today, and then his inherited runners got donged in.
Yeah, Jose Cisnero gave up a moonshot to Adam Duvall,
and which didn't help. But his line at the end was 5 2/3 innings, 5 earned. I mean, that's just not going to be enough. Unfortunately, when we're in the position of if we give up like 3 runs, we're lucky toast if we're going to get there. So.
Mason Englert, though, Bob. Mason Englert, 3 games, 5 1/3 innings, 1.69 ERA. Could be a reliable arm.
I mean, that's the one thing we have been known to develop is a strong reliever under this regime, but quite unfortunately, our schedule is not looking like it's going to let up anytime soon, which is gross. We got the Red Sox this weekend, then we got to go to the Blue Jays for a 3-game stand. Then we got the Giants, then the Guardians.
And that's after opening with 2 series against perennial playoff teams in the Tampa Bay Rays and Houston Astros.
Yeah, so we've been playing nothing but world beaters. Then we get the Orioles, who are hot and cold.
Are good.
Yeah.
They're going to be good this year.
And then the Brewers again. And then the Orioles again.
This year.
And then the Mets. And then the Cardinals. And so, yeah, basically our first, 30 games are against world beaters. So this very well could be the Reds of last season. And we could be on a losing streak of all losing streaks if things don't...
not the 3-20. Not the 3-22 start.
We did.
At least Riley Green is hitting .296 with a dong.
Correct.
Riley Green, thank you.
And we did get a dong for Spencer Torkelson,
when did that start?
Who hasn't looked complete stain as of yet.
Correct.
But when you pretty much are starting, I mean, half our lineup is basically rookies / guys in their first 2 or 3 years in the league.
We're gonna see what kind of core we got moving forward. This year is a who do we got and who do we not type of year for the Tigers, which it's a shame with Miguel Cabrera's last season going to be on an absolutely worthless garbage team. But hey, at least he got to throw out the first pitch today. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was pretty cool. Big Ben, Calvin Johnson, Nick Lidstrom, and Miguel Cabrera simultaneous first pitch throwing 4 legends from the 4 major Detroit sports franchises. Cool. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Other than that, I don't really have too much else to add on the MLB front. It's a little early to start, projecting playoff teams. Obviously, you don't want to start in a hole like the Phillies have, but you assume that with their talent, they'll put it together at some point. So a little hard. Certainly some underachievers, maybe some overachievers to start the season. I'll say one thing, though. The Atlanta Braves, everyone talks about the Padres in the NL. Everyone talks about the Cardinals in the NL. The Dodgers in the NL. The Atlanta Braves aren't going anywhere. That team is still as stacked as it's ever been. And the Phillies, too. People talking about the Phillies. People talking about the Mets. You got to beat the Braves first if you're in the NL East. The NL East runs through Atlanta, in my personal opinion.
I think there's a pretty wild one tonight with the Padres and Braves. They're playing this weekend.
Correct. Yes, going to be a very exciting series. Very exciting series. Lots of good baseball coming up. Watch some baseball. Watch the Masters. Watch some NBA as the regular season winds down. Bob, can we get a Los Angeles Lakers update?
We can get an update. As of right now, it looks like we are basically darn near secured the play-in at this point. We are at the 7th seed right now, which, considering where we were at not too long ago, is an ascension. We have 2 more games in the season, and they are against, I believe, without looking off the top of my head, we have one of them is against let me just look at the list of teams here so I can remember. One of them is against the Jazz. Yes, one of them against the Jazz at home, I believe. And the other is
both games at home.
Both games at home. One of them is the Jazz, and the other one is the Suns. So we have the Suns and then the Jazz to finish the season. The Suns, very interesting that because their
seat is locked.
Their seat is basically locked at this point. So they don't really have any more reason to play for anything. Besides the fact that they might want to get more reps with Kevin Durant because he hasn't played too many games with them and he was kind of hurt for a while. But if they kind of call off the dogs, that could allow the Lakers to win that one. And, even if they didn't call off the dogs, the Lakers have been playing much better. It is a home game, and they know what's at stake. So they would be playing very, extra motivated. And then the Jazz are just staying. And they just beat the Jazz. Mind you, it was an overtime game, but they just beat the Jazz a couple days ago in Utah. And the Jazz certainly have nothing to play for. So we got to think we can pick that one up. The problem is that in order to avoid the play-in tournament, we'd have to make it to the 6th seed, which is the Warriors, who are directly above us, who we are, I believe, one game back of at this point, but we have the tiebreaker. We beat the Warriors 3 out of 4 times this season. So a head-to-head record, we would advance in an event of a tie. So we're going to need the Warriors to essentially lose out, or at least lose one and we pick up, both of them. And
a split for the Warriors and 2 for the Lakers clinches, or 0-1.
Yeah. Yep. And so when looking at the Warriors' schedule in that regard, they have the Kings away, which is good for the Lakers because the Warriors stink on the road, and the Kings are no slouch bums this season. And then the Trailblazers, who are not good, but they have been still competing very hard as of recently. So
have they shut down Dame yet?
I have not heard that, but maybe. In terms of play-in, if looking at a play-in potential, right now it's, the Mavs have free-fallen. So I don't think that the Mavs are going to make the play-in even. So right now we're looking at the Lakers, Pels, Timberwolves, and Thunder. I think it's those 4 teams. And then, I like our chances in that matchup. I obviously would not want to go through that because, in a one-game, kind of winner-take-all scenario, anything can happen. The Pels have been hot recently. BI's been playing really, really well. Zion, though, is not coming back. I think they posted today. They're going to continue him on the rehab, at least for a little bit longer. So maybe he could be back during the playoffs at some point, but they're not bringing him back anytime soon, like as in the next game. And then the Thunder, young and dangerous. Timberwolves, they have talent, but they're exactly 500. Just an absolute logjam. The loss to the Clippers last night for the Lakers hurt.
Stung.
It hurt, but it really wasn't a traditional Lakers loss to the Clippers where the Clippers jump on us early, we fold like a cheap suit, and never really put up much of an effort. It was actually an event of the Lakers fought, and the Clippers would just barrage back. The Lakers would make a run, the Clippers would just make it that much more of a run. So unfortunate, and also unfortunate that LeBron and AD are still battling kind of lingering injuries. LeBron, it's been widely reported, was told to shut down the season by at least 2 physicians, and he didn't. AD.
That's right, because LeBron has never nobody has ever healed from that injury faster in history of all humankind than LeBron James.
And then AD has also been battling some bone spurs, I believe, in his foot, which have been bothering him quite a bit. But you never know if he's going to be,
Street clothes.
Street clothes Davis are all day for AD.
Correct.
So, really impressed with the turnaround. If we were to make the actual playoffs, there's not too
Who
many.
do you want to see?
There's not too many teams that I would be completely scared of, to be honest. The Kings, I think if we got the Kings, I would be very happy with that matchup.
Golden State.
The Golden State, they're probably we probably wouldn't meet them anywhere close to the beginning, but
Oh, right.
it would probably at least have to be the second round with them. But I wouldn't be afraid of them. The Grizzlies, they've been very good this season, but I never really trust them. There's really
young team in a 7-game series against LeBron.
Really, there's nobody that I trust. The Suns have been relatively, who knows what their chemistry is going to be going in. Plus, they got to play the Clippers in the first round, so that's going to be a really intriguing matchup. Clippers Suns. So it is an absolute crapshoot of a crapshoot right now in the Western Conference. It's still it's a day or two left in the playoff picture is nowhere near set. A lot of teams still at this point have everything to play for. So that would be interesting. In the East, it's a little bit of a different story. Just for a brief summary, Bucks have got the conference wrapped up. The Celtics through 76ers the Celtics, 76ers, Cavs, and Knicks have all secured their spots. And the play-in is set. Basically, all the teams are set in the East. There's really no parity in that regard. I have to say this is the absolute most chalk playoff picture in history. No teams, in my opinion, made the play-in and beyond in the East that I would not have expected to make the playoff before the season start. I mean, the Magic, the Pistons, the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pacers were all garbage going into the season, and nobody expected anything out of them, and none of them did anything to overperform expectations. So, ain't that something? In the West, it's a little bit different. The Spurs and Rockets were supposed to be horrible. The Mavs were supposed to be very good. And they're not completely eliminated, but they're darn near eliminated. The Jazz were supposed to be bad, and they were bad. The Trailblazers were supposed to be better than they are, but not great. And so they didn't make it either. So more parity in the West, but it's going to be some very, very interesting series in the first round. Cavs Knicks is another one I would recommend that people keep an eye out on, just because of the whole Donovan Mitchell drama that occurred with those two teams in this past offseason. The Knicks reportedly being potentially in on trying to bring Donovan Mitchell in. Didn't happen. The Cavs ended up getting him. How far can the 76ers go? Will the Heat surprise anybody if they make it out of the play-in? And Celtics and Bucks. It's just, who can rise up among those two as well. So, completely craziness. Sorry for the long monologue, but that's the brief NBA overview as we're getting into the playoff picture. Very excited for the play-in because it's going to be one and done as I mentioned, but some good stuff.
NBA playoffs is always, for those, fans of sports like Dennis who don't really care much for the NBA. The playoffs are always a different beast from the regular season. The intensity ramps up, the play ramps up. highly encourage people to watch NBA basketball because um, in the playoffs because extremely entertaining. So Dennis would
Yeah, I
highly
mean,
encourage
I'll definitely be
checking.
tuning into some of the playoff games and stuff, mostly just because at that point it's just that or, normal regular season baseball, which is great. But the intensity of the playoffs. I think, you know, I also never overlooked the Stanley Cup playoffs, Derek. I
We're
mean,
coming down the stretch. We're coming down the stretch.
hockey's always been a little tougher for me since I don't really have my team per se, but when it comes playoff time, it's always so fun. And same with
Correct.
basketball.
Correct. Well, I don't have really anything else to add in the sports world. Um, Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any like isolated incidents that I want to talk about. So if it's all right with you guys, we can head right into winners and losers of the week. Dennis, it's been a minute since you've had a chance to chime in, so why don't you lead off with your winner of the week?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think I told you guys before we got started, I stuck golf themed today. I just couldn't help myself. I won't have too many weeks of opportunity to do this, and my winner is very generic, but all golf fans, baby, this week is it. This is the best week of the year, and we finally get some time in the spotlight. Sure, baseball, NBA, NHL, all this stuff's going on, but finally for one week, it's golf that's at the forefront, and I love every second of it.
Bob, your winner.
I'm going to go with Joel Embiid as my winner of the week. Um, he was coming down to a very, very tight MVP race um, with Nikola Jokic for the entire season. That was made a lot of headlines. I know sports media was talking about it for quite some time, kind of going back and forth, back and forth. Jokic missed a few games, I believe, um, and Joel kind of cemented his case, in my opinion, with a 50 bomb that he dropped the other night
Yes,
um,
yes.
in their winning effort. Um, it was a game that came down to the wire, and I believe he scored more than half his team's points as well.
I think he
Um,
scored 51 of 103.
something crazy like that. Um, and yeah, his team did every bit of it, and he was there. So I think, needless to say, I think he's basically wrapped up the the MVP race, and very excited to see if he can continue that success into the playoffs because that's always been the big knock on him. So
My winner of the week, the MLB rule changes. Jeff Passan a couple days ago put out some stats about some comparisons through small sample size, but the first 4 games of the season. So time of game in 2023 is 2 hours and 38 minutes, down from 3 hours and 9 minutes from last year. Batting average 245, 323, 392 are the splits compared to 2022, 230, 308, 374. So we have increased offense and increased on base percentage. And stolen bases in 2023, 70 for 84 in stolen base attempts compared to 2022, 29 for 43. So more stolen bases in 2023 through the first 4 games than had even been attempted in 2022 through the first 4 games. And pitch clock violations, under one per game. 40 pitch clock violations through 50 games, so a zero point 0.8 ratio of pitch time or violations per game. So I mean, not
Yeah, if I
not
could
much
just say
else to
something
say.
on that real quick, I mostly stand by my opinions from previous episodes in which I'm not a big fan of the pitch clock, but I will say that the games have been snappy. And I think when I get into a ballpark, I won't be as happy about it because I want to sit there and enjoy the game and whatnot. But as far as a television product goes, I think it has improved it.
It's
Um,
awesome for a television
because
product.
it's so, I guess it's just nice to know that there's something that is going to force the next action to take place. I guess I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but like there's something
Makes
that
perfect sense.
I know I'm going to get another pitch and I don't have to wait 2 minutes to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been pretty strong proponent for the pitch clock changes, all the other changes. The only thing I think I'd like to see the MLB do, which maybe this is a hot take. I really don't understand why there isn't a second base in foul territory. It just seems like for the MLB and wanting to protect their product for a safety perspective, to have a base on the inside of the foul line for the first baseman and a base on the outside of the foul line for the runner. Too often are runners' interference not called or obstruction. I can't remember which one it is. It's been a long time since I've taken an umpiring class.
I think
I
it's
believe
interference. It would be oh,
obstruction for the runner and interference for the defender, because they call it catcher's interference and not catcher's obstruction. So I think anything that's a defender violation is interference, and
I
anything
usually had
that's
it
a runner,
flipped, but maybe I'm wrong.
yeah. Regardless, far too often is that too subjective of a call to be made properly. I mean, we've seen career-ending injuries. We've seen guys lose seasons over collisions at first base. It just seems like one of those things where you can take out so much ambiguity from the rules and you can ensure the safety of your players by having a second base down the first base line. Maybe baseball purists don't like that idea. I know I always thought it was kind of goofy in Little League when you had a white base
Yeah,
and
I
an
was gonna
orange
say,
base. Maybe,
I'm sure
maybe,
you know
maybe,
this, Derek. We always that's how it always was when we played. Like when I
correct.
played growing up anyway, that's what it looked like. There was two
Correct.
bases. That's how it
Until
was.
I got to pony ball, you always had
Yeah.
two bases. I Granted, having a white base and an orange base I think is a little goofy. So if the MLB were to implement it, I think having two white bases would make the most sense. But I just think it makes sense to have, I don't know, maybe people argue that it's a skill for the catcher to have to throw down the line without hitting the runner. But at the same time, I mean, if a guy breaks his hand because he gets hit by a ball from the catcher, or if the first baseman breaks his wrist, or if the runner tears his ACL because of a collision, I mean, I just feel like there's so many things that could go wrong down the first baseline that could improve the quality of the game and the safety of the game by having a second base. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Mm. I agree. I don't think it's that much of a hot take. I haven't heard too many people talking about that potential implementation, but I don't see a problem with it. I think it only makes sense. And the only kind of like you were saying, the only downfall to it is aesthetics, which when you're playing with player safety and role, implementation implications, I would take maybe some less stellar aesthetics all day long compared to those things.
Bob, do you have any thoughts, or is it a relatively non-issue for you?
Relative non-issue for me. Makes sense. Why?
Sure,
I'm not opposed to it. Just don't really care that much about it.
sure, fair enough. Dennis, you're loser of the week.
Yeah. So shocker, shocker, going back to the world of golf. And I'm pretty sure this guy is starting to set records for maybe most times on a loser list, aka mine. And that would be none other than Greg Norman for specifically being uninvited to the Masters as to quote unquote not stir up more controversy. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I did not.
He
That's
basically
hilarious.
the I can't remember what his name is, the head of the Masters committee basically confirmed today that Greg Norman was not invited to attend this year's events at Augusta, as to keep the focus on the tournament and the players there and not distract everyone in the media with Live PGA um, back and forth, which it already is anyway, but it makes sense to not bring him on site. And Greg snapped back with something along the lines of, I guess it was something about how it's odd that a former major champion is not invited to the Masters, but whatever, and their loss kind of thing. But yeah, Greg, you lose again.
Bob, you're a loser.
I mean, thank you for the originality, Dennis. I'm going to go with the Seattle Mariners, who are the only other team besides the Tigers to start out the season 2-5. Just not a great start. The reason I was getting a little concerned about the Mariners is because I have a pitcher from the Mariners who I made the great managerial decision that I did to not pitch, and he got shelled. And so I was like, well, how are the Mariners doing this season? Well, not very, very good at all. They start out with the Guardians, who, thank you very much, Mariners, for letting them take 3 of 4 off you. I mean, just not what you want to see. And then proceeding to let the Angels walk all over you and win the series, which that never happens. And guess what? Now the Cleveland Guardians get 3 more games against them, which means that, guess what? The AL Central is going to be out of reach by the 3rd week of the season because the Guardians are going to be running up so much. So thank you very much, Mariners. You're my loser of the week.
My loser of the week, sticking in the baseball world. It's a shame to do this. Detroit Tigers shortstop Javier Baez. Javi Baez, to start the 2023 season, in 21 at-bats, has 2 hits. Meaning, for those of you math nerds out there, that is less than a 100-point batting average. He is hitting .095 for the season. His WAR is negative .1. He has 0 home runs. But today, he did draw his first walk of the season. .095 batting average, 136 on-base percentage, and a .095 slugging percentage. Just absolute fleecing of Javi Baez to Tigers management last year. There's a reason why Al Avila is no longer the general manager, and it's because he paid a former superstar with massive holes in his swing, who was on the wrong side of his prime, a massive bag to come and be an absolute bust in Detroit. They could have had Carlos Correa. They went for Javi Baez instead, and now they're reaping what they sowed. So Javi Baez, you are my loser of the week for having 2 hits through 7 games.
Bobby, has that I always forget his name. The guy, I think he's at Barstool. Has he had anything to say about Javi yet?
Chris
Have you been
Castellani.
keeping up with those?
Yeah, he has had something to say.
He sounds off on Javi, and it's hilarious.
And it's been a lot of just banging head into the wall.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, good. Happy to hear it.
Any honorable mention winners or losers of the week that anyone's got?
I don't have anything specifically, but just to throw another thing in there, I couldn't really decide if it was a winner or loser, or I guess it's kind of neutral. Sergio sounded off today on some reporters after his 2-over round at Augusta and was like, basically, shut up with the live questions. I'm here to play golf, and I'm not answering any more of them. It's all of your guys' fault for continuing to talk about it. None of the players care, which is very interesting. An interesting hot take that none of the players care. I don't know if he's talked to Rory lately. Probably not.
Probably not.
Who was right there
He's
with
probably
him.
kept his distance. He's probably kept his distance.
Yeah, he's probably not talked to Rory too much.
But yeah, I don't really have any honorable mention winners or losers either. I don't think. NFL world is pretty quiet. Oh, there was one thing I did want to bring up though, as an honorable mention: early retirements. I don't know if you guys saw the news today. Tyreek Hill is planning on retiring after his contract with the Dolphins runs out. So when his contract runs out with the Dolphins, I believe he'll be 31. And his reasoning is because he wants to get more heavily involved in the esports industry, playing video games. So yeah, Tyreek Hill may be out of the league sooner than later, which I guess good for him. He's hundreds of millions of dollars, gets to live the rest of his life without any serious health consequences from playing football for too long, by all means,
I thought you were
live
gonna
the rest.
say. I thought you were gonna say track and field because I saw that he had like dusted those people at like the
Yeah,
some U.S.
yeah,
event like a couple weeks ago. I was like, that's pretty cool.
yeah. No, he's got a passion for video games.
Esports,
Dude,
all right.
dude is living my life. That's all I ever wanted to do was play a professional sport and play video games in my free time. That's all I ever wanted to do. So shout out Tyreek Hill, massive winner. Right bench ballers for the week. Dennis, we'll swing it right back to you, my friend.
Sure, I'm nothing if but consistent, and I'm gonna go with Sam Bennett, which was one of the minor storylines today. The top amateur so far at 4 under, and through the first round, he was the 2022 U.S. Amateur Champion, which is what got him the exemption to the field today. And I did end up watching quite a bit of his round because he played with Scotty Scheffler, which is actually a tradition I did not know existed. Apparently, the first 2 rounds, the previous Masters champion always plays with the U.S. Amateur Champion, which is kind
It's
of a
pretty
cool thing
cool.
that I did not know. But yeah, he played really well. 4 under, 7 shots clear of the next amateur, who was 3 over in the field.
Wow,
So that
could
tells
be
you a
the
little
next
bit
big
of where the
thing.
bar is set. Where the bar is set for the amateurs, it's set very low, and that's typically, most of them miss the cut, and he's after day one right there in the thick of things.
Bob, you're right bench baller.
I'm going with one of the only signs of life from the Detroit Tigers offense. Jake Rogers going Yabo City today.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, Jake Rogers is still on the roster?
Jake
Wow.
Rogers, one of the last pieces from the Justin Verlander trade that
Yeah.
the Tigers made way back when. We've been moving Eric Haas out into left field to get him some opportunity to keep his bat in the lineup because we don't have very many bats that are worthy of keeping in the lineup. And Jake Rogers going Yabo City in a 6-3 defeat.
My right bench baller. I'm actually going to stick with the Detroit Tigers here, actually. Matt Vierling. Matt Vierling, 26 years old. He debuted in 2021 and is now with the Tigers organization, former fifth round pick.
In
Batting
return from the
leadoff.
Soto trade, right?
Yes, yes, correct. So already up in the majors, batting leadoff, playing center field, has started the season relatively strong. 333 batting average, a homer, 3 RBIs, a stolen base, and an on base plus slugging percentage of 885. So a bright, start for a young player. Hopefully, I mean, let's be real. Gregory, anything we could have got a bag of chips for Gregory Soto and I would have been happy. But to get an actual, at least through 8 games, um, a potential major league quality player for Gregory Soto after all of Alavila's disastrous trades, I'll be happy to
It's
take
an
that.
all-star
So
you're talking about. You're talking about
uh,
all-star Gregory Soto.
Gregory
Two-time.
Gregory's
Two-time.
what Gregory Soto was a welfare all-star. A welfare all-star. The only reason he was an all-star was because he was our closer and we needed to send a representative from the Detroit
I
Tigers.
know, but
That's the
that
only
means that he was
reason.
your best player.
It should have been Jose Cisnero. It should have been Jose Cisnero. Even you could have even made an argument for freaking he's on the Cubs now.
Andrew Chafin? No.
Tucker Barnhart.
Nope, nope.
The Funk?
Nope, not the Funk.
I don't
Michael
know. There's
Fulmer.
so many
Michael
names.
Michael
Fulmer.
Fulmer, yeah.
Michael
Oh, Michael
Fulmer.
Farmer, yeah.
You could have made an argument for Michael Fulmer last year even, but yeah. Screw Gregory Soto, screw Alavila. Thank you, Matt Bierling, for showing some signs of life in a relatively decrepit Detroit Tigers offense. Bob, before we get into garbage time takes your money, we've got last week's results to get to.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
It was the LA Dodgers versus the Arizona Diamondbacks opening day. I've got to pull up the game. It's so hard to
I think
get
we were
these
1 and
things.
2, Derek. I think we were 1 and 2.
I'm pretty sure we were as well. I'm pretty sure we hit the under, but we both took the Dodgers and they lost. Or it was the opposite. What was it? This is bad podcasting. Opening day, no, the Dodgers covered in the overhit. That's what it was. The Dodgers won 8-2, 8-2 over the Arizona Diamondbacks. So me and Bob both hit the Dodgers money line. But 8 plus 2 is 10, and the over under was set to 8. So 1 for 2 for me and Bob. What you got this week?
Wait a minute. What was the score of the game?
8-2,
And what was the over under?
8, and we both took the under.
Oh, we both took the under. I got you.
Yes.
Got you. Well, I got one that I know Dennis will be a fan of. So buckle your seatbelt or fasten your seatbelts, folks, because we've got the New York Yankees versus the Baltimore Orioles tomorrow, and this isn't just any old game. This isn't any old game.
Oh no! Can I guess?
No, Dennis. No, we know you got it right. None other than a couple of powerhouses on the mound tomorrow. Clark Schmidt for the Yankees against Dean Kramer for the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh my gosh, man!
We're gonna make
I
this a
love Dean
special
Kramer.
week. We're gonna make this a special week of Garbage Time Takes Your Money, and we're gonna add a third category, which at my discretion. Of course, for baseball games, we do not take a spread in the baseball game. We only go money line because the spreads are almost always the same. And so money line pick will be needed. We're going to need an over-under, which is at 8.5 runs. And the alternative, the prop bet that I'd like everybody to put their 2 cents in on, Dean Kramer, over-under 3.5 strikeouts for Dean. Clark Schmidt, for the record, they have him at 4.5.
I don't even think Dean Kramer made it 3.5 innings on his last outing before he got ran out. Who is at home, Bob?
I'm looking right now.
It is at Baltimore.
Okay.
Last time out was April 1st at Boston. Only game so far this season. 3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 6 hits, a walk, and 3 strikeouts for Dean.
So he did not have 3.5 innings pitched. Just a little side note before Bob decides who goes first. I have it in Garbage Time Takes Your Money, July 24th of 2022. I have Yankees versus Orioles. I can only assume that Dean Kramer was pitching that day. Because we all took the over and we all took the Yankees, and the Yankees won. The under hit, but the Yankees won that day. So I can only assume that Dean Kramer pitched July 24th of 2022. While Bob picks who's going first, I'm going to see if my thoughts ring true.
Dennis, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are on this crapshoot.
Yeah, well, I got my pick on the game. What did you say the over-under was?
8.5.
8.5. Okay, all right. I mean, this is going to be apparently deja vu to July because I'm taking the New York Yankees in this one. And I can tell you why. I just did a quick, very on-the-spot, low-level expertise research here. And the first thing that stood out to me was that the judge, 7 at-bats against Dean Kramer, lifetime. I want to guess how many times in those 7 at-bats he's hit a home run.
4.
3 times. The judge has gone yabo on Dean Kramer, and 7 at-bats. He has a 571 average in those at-bats, so I'm assuming he has another hit tossed in there.
I'm already down substantially in hits and home runs to Nathan. I can't stomach any more Dean Kramer meatballs.
I mean, Dean Kramer is not going to be
we could have salami tomorrow.
He already ran through the stats from his first outing against Boston, and this Yankees lineup is a bit better. And I'm going to go, so I'm taking the Yankees. I'm going to go over here mostly because of everything I just mentioned, combined with the fact that I don't really know much about this Schmidt guy. And maybe Baltimore will toss in a few runs for old time's sake. And the over can hit in this one. It's also in Baltimore, I believe here. Yeah, Camden Yards. So, maybe the home crowd gets the offense going a little bit. I'm going to go Yankees and over.
And on the strikeouts,
Dennis, yeah, I
Oh,
mean, Dean's
strikeouts,
line.
strikeouts. Oh, man.
3.5, Dennis.
Oh, 3.5 is such a horrible line.
take the over,
He only
Dennis.
had 3 last time out, but only because he could only get through 3 innings. I don't know if he's getting through 3 innings again. I'm going to go under.
Fudge, Derek says. Derek.
I'm going to
Sure.
took all 3 of his picks.
Yes, to double back on, my premonitions, it was indeed Dean Kramer on the mound. Dean Kramer gave up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings pitched. He gave up a home run to Aaron Judge in that game. And none other than Clark Schmidt pitched a 3 inning save for the Yankees that day. So today's starting, or tomorrow, and by the time this is uploaded, today's starting pitcher for the Yankees, Clark Schmidt, was actually coming out of the bullpen last year for the Yankees. So I don't know if this is a bullpen game or if he's worked himself into the rotation. I'm going to do something real crazy. You ready for this? I'm going to take the Orioles. I believe they're a good team this year. Cedric Mullins, thank you, has been on fire to start the season. I think Dean limits just enough damage to sort of keep pace with Clark Schmidt. I don't know how good of a pitcher Clark Schmidt is. I don't really care. But Dean is going to go pitch for pitch with Clark Schmidt. I've got this as like a 5-4 game, 6-4 game. I mean, look at that beautiful smile in the lettuce on Dean Kramer. I mean, how
Look at
about
the
it?
regular
How
season
can you not
2023.
have faith in this man?
I mean, how about it? I
I mean,
mean,
come on.
15 ERA with 3 innings and 3 strikeouts aside, Dean Kramer is gonna bring it back. I'm gonna take the Orioles. I'm gonna take the over on the runs. Uh, I have a feeling he's gonna cook. I'm gonna put it on the line. Dean's gonna cook. He's gonna get 4 strikeouts. Count it, 4 strikeouts. So give me the Orioles, the over on the run line, and the over for Dean Kramer strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm not real happy with that, Derek, because you kind of were going along my line of thinking, kind of. But I'm going to take the Yankees as well. I'm going to go 8.5 is tough for me, actually. I think the toughest part for me is this is the over-under. I'm going to say Dean gets the 4. I'm going to say Dean gets the 4. Yankees perennial fanners at the plate. But you know what? The fact that Dean's not going to have that long of a leash, and Clark Schmidt certainly isn't going to have that long of a leash, just got to push me towards an over as a save myself kind of pick, so I don't go over 3.
So just to recap, Dennis Yankees over under, me Orioles over, and Bob Yankees over. So Bob and Dennis both have the Yankees in the over runs. I'm the Me and Bob have the over on Dean Kramer strikeouts, and I'm the only one who took the Orioles. So pulling for overs here, lots of runs, lots of strikeouts. Bob, take it away with the plugs.
And Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garb Time Takes on Twitter. You can find the link to our website in the description below, where you can go check out Dennis's fantastic new Masters article, which he, is starting to become a tradition in itself.
A tradition unlike any other. Dennis's Masters
That's
article
right.
preview.
That's right.
Correct.
Tradition unlike any other.
Correct. And with that, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, and feel free to share it with a friend. We appreciate all your support and having you here.
And feel free to check out my MLB fantasy baseball roster preview if you're interested in fantasy baseball. And maybe I know what I'm talking about, maybe I don't. We'll see when the season ends how I did. But yeah, couldn't have said it better. Thanks again so much for watching. We always appreciate you guys listening to Three Dudes Just Talk Sports. Without further ado, thanks again for watching. In 3,
1.
peace.
Peace.